What is up, you beautiful people? Welcome back to the Built on Bitcoin podcast, where we cover all the innovation happening across the Bitcoin ecosystem. I am your humble host, Jacob Brown, which will see me on MySpace and the interwebs as Jake Blockchain. And today I have a conversation with Caleb, which you may have seen around as Phosphorus on Twitter. He is one of the minds behind another podcast called Airdrop. It's a show all about NFTs, and they're kind of at the intersection of art, creators, and Web3. And I got him on because there's just a ton to talk about in this space. I mean, NFTs and crypto are rethinking the tools that creators have to sustain themselves and interact with their audiences. So we cover a ton of topics around that, digital scarcity, what is an NFT? He gave a great definition, where he thinks they're going, some of the nuances and things that he's learned over the year, and how NFTs have already kind of evolved as far as narratives go over the year. So fascinating conversation. I love this. It's also good to hear some of his background before crypto, what he was into. So yeah, this is a good one. I think you'll enjoy it. And so before we jump in though, let me just pause for a quick word from our sponsor.
We all know Bitcoin is for the innovators, the revolutionaries, and the builders looking to build a better world for themselves and for the next generation. We also know the saying, the best time to plant a tree is 20 years ago. The next best time is right now. The same thing applies to building on Bitcoin. If you want to come build with the most active developer community building new use cases for Bitcoin, then it's time you make the leap to learning Clarity. Clarity is the Stack's smart contract programming layer, which enables us to work on DeFi, smart contracts, and so much more, all built with the safety and security that comes with Bitcoin. Start today by going to start.stacks.org. Start.stacks.org has a 5-step journey that will take you from complete Stacks novice to teaching you Clarity all the way to finding a job with a Web3 Stack startup. Don't wait another month, year, or decade waiting to get involved in the Bitcoin ecosystem. Start building on Bitcoin today. Go to start.stacks.org to start learning and building today.
All right, and without further ado, let's just jump right into this fantastic conversation with Caleb, aka Phosphorus, host of the Airdrop Show podcast.
Welcome to Built on Bitcoin.
Caleb, how you doing today, my man?
What's up, sir? It's a beautiful day outside and I can't complain.
I love it. You're one of my content creators in crime, so this is a different kind of episode. This is going to be fun. Yeah,
I feel like I've made it now if I'm on the Jake Blockchain show. So
bro, this is
a step up. I'm like graduating. I'm in the varsity leagues now.
You've reached the pinnacle. It's only downhill from here. I apologize.
There's ups and there's downs. That's what crypto teaches us.
That's right. Yeah, this is gonna be fun. I think we're gonna dance around a little bit, and we're gonna talk a lot about NFTs because that's kind of been your guys' hobby horse, and it's especially because this is more of a Bitcoin focused show now. A lot of Bitcoiners don't understand NFTs. They're pretty dumb to the idea. So we have to educate the masses on where these non-fungible tokens are going and why they're valuable.
Yeah.
But before we get there, I want to learn a bit more about you and your background. So before you got into crypto, what's your background? What's a little bit about Caleb?
Well, we can just back it up. Like, you graduate high school 2007 and yeah. And so you have the financial crash 2008. I didn't understand what was happening until I was in college and I'd graduated college and the market hadn't come back yet. And you've been built up with these dreams that if you can do what you want, go to school, work really hard, and the American dream is there for you. And it wasn't. And it's just like, wait a minute, I've been lied to my whole life. So I did what every college graduate does when they don't know what they're doing. I went back to school. I got my master's in public administration and urban planning, and I loved that. But the problem with urban planning is it takes 100 years to see if your ideas work. And I didn't have the patience to wait 100 years and fight the uphill battle to make this happen. So I turned into content. A lot of the stuff I was doing for nonprofits and in my government job, there was just a lack of marketing. Which is just educating the people on what's going on in a clear and concise way. So I just moved into making content. That's when you had, of course, we rose up with social media getting older. And so I was watching Casey Neistat, and I picked up a camera and said, if he can do it, I can do it, which was the dumbest idea ever. But I've been on this road ever since, and it's led to some crazy things. Making full-on documentaries, to working at startups, building out video courses, just getting my brain stuck into the marketing loop of how we consume things, how we learn about things. And that kind of leads me into the crypto sphere, and because when I saw NFTs drop, right, because I was a big Gary Vee fan, right? As you're looking at marketing, creating content, how you consume it, Gary Vee is the guy. Right? Tom Bilyeu is the guy. And so when all of my mentor figures that I'm looking up to are talking about this latest thing, I went, holy crap. This is like when Facebook first got started, right? Because I was there and I watched it happen and how they grew. This is how the internet was started, because I was there when we all got our first computers and we have dial-up internet. And you're like, this is so weird. Why are we doing this? Now I literally can't do anything without the internet. And so now when you see this next wave and what's being built on top of it, it just made complete sense for me to go all in on NFTs and whatever is happening in this space here. But I think I jumped the gun there on your next question. But it's that line of thinking of what can we do now because the wave is happening, and how do we catch it? Mm-hmm. Whether that's making content for social media, right? Because now being a content creator is the number one job that high school students want to do when they graduate. When you ask kids what they want to do, they want to be a YouTuber, they want to be a TikToker. There's something happening and some change happening, and I just want to be in the middle of it. That's why I'm here.
Okay. So your main push was, this is where the puck is going to go. I don't know how long it's going to take, but when it's ready, I'm going to Wayne Gretzky that-ish and catch it and be primed. Was that kind of the idea? So you're preparing your future self for that, and also you could be a leader whenever that hits.
Right. I feel like I'm behind all the time. That's just the perpetual state of things. It's because you watch people and they're so much better. Well, they started 10 years earlier. Mm-hmm. You just got to start now, shoot your shot. You can't score unless you put yourself in a position to. So how can I position myself in a way to take a risk and have that risk pay off?
Right. Okay. Interesting. Before we go too deep down more crypto stuff, I'm curious of the urban planning thing, because you hear city coins had an interesting promise on the jump. They're kind of figuring out their footing now. You have City DAO, which is trying to fundraise, buying a big plot of land, doing everything by grassroots, bringing plumbers, electricians, whatever. You have Balaji's new network state book, where he's trying to go from the cloud, and then you come down to physical reality. Are you watching any of that, of being able to organize in new ways and then put roots down physically in some fashion? And maybe the reason I'm asking is because you said 100-year times, everything just takes way too damn long. And it seems like we can shorten that now with tools like crypto. But I'm curious on your take on that.
I think it's the idea of, and I think crypto does this well, and there's some flaws to it just because of the nature of the game. It's easy to ideate, theorize, put an idea out there. We're going to we're going to reorganize ourselves in this new economic way, and it works sometimes, and sometimes it doesn't. There is no fix for a lot of this stuff. And human nature is what human nature does. And you got to really follow the money And you can see some of that now coming back into downtown systems, in certain urban areas. But it just takes a long time. Like as you saw with the adoption of Bitcoin, where we're still there. It takes a long time for these narratives to really sink in. So people go, oh, this is actually good for me. Because people don't think like that in the long run. And it takes a long time to get those adoption of those things even started. Could it happen? Yes. Could a DAO replace a school board? Probably. Right. But you're going to have to fight those old systems that are dug in that, we use the whole political movements have been started over patronage systems, right? Or people getting jobs because of their grandparents or who they know, yada, yada, yada. That takes a long time to weed out, and people don't want to get rid of those things easily. So could it work better in theory? Yes, it could. Will it? That's a big battle you have to fight. And that's why I want to stay out of those arguments as much as possible, because they are circular and they're going to go forever. And it's just two people yelling at each other, saying how right they are or not. And I just kind of like just back out of the room slowly. I don't need to be in this room, which is why I left the public space to begin with.
Right. Yeah. And I'm always like a techno optimist. And I always feel like we're 2 years away from like Amazon delivering my milk to my fridge directly in my fridge. Like it's coming. And it's like, we have all the tech, the RFIDs and the whatever, but the actual like boots on the ground stuff takes way longer than you expect.
Right. I remember reading like Andrew Yang's book, War on Normal People, pretty much exactly says like what a cryptocurrency like exchange would look like for services, like a DAO you would, or like a City Coin. He like outlined it perfectly. I didn't know City Coin was doing any of this at the time, but like those techno optimists are thinking in these ways, and it 100% could happen. There's just a lot of things that have to happen first to really get that adoption to move forward, and actually people see it as a benefit instead of them being pessimistic, because trying new things is difficult.
Right. Do you think, last question kind of related to cities is, remote work at Zoom has like changed so fast in the past 2 years. Like I work through my computer now. Do you think the nature of cities and how like much of a gravitational pull they have is going to change in a big way?
I do think so. Yeah. We're even seeing part of it now. And I think Web3 is actually at the forefront of a lot of this, because a lot of Web3 is remote jobs only. Because you can pull in more talent from more places. You don't have to, you can be in Kansas and Missouri and work in a company in New York. And also the price of living is different in those places. And so I do think some smaller cities are going to see a boom again, if they can attract the right tech hubs. But that means they have to build a certain way, because these workers are going to want certain things. They're going to want walkable neighborhoods. They're going to want better restaurants. They're going to want different things. And can a city put all the pieces in play to attract those people? Yes, they can. That's going to be a lot of work, and it's not an overnight switch. Austin, Texas is a great example of somebody that's done that 20-year switch to become a tech hub. So you can have some of these cities, and I do think more people are going to spread out. But if you to get your experience, going to a big city is probably the best move when you're just starting out. And it will always have that, because there's the bigger network effect, more people, more jobs, different types of jobs. It's going to be harder to find. It's currently harder to find me the jobs I want to do in smaller cities, because the firms are in larger cities. Is it possible? Right. Yes. And I think Web3 is at that bleeding edge, and it's going to lean more towards that. But we probably still have a 20-year time horizon before it's really pretty.
Interesting. Okay. Yeah, I hadn't thought about it like that. Because like I think the stat is like 70% of people don't leave their home state, which you kind of hear that and you go, okay, that's kind of crazy, but also feels pretty true. And then the people who do leave because they're nomadic or because they have access to capital, they could keep moving. Like they're not stuck anywhere. And so if they some places like offering something that they say is super cool, they can go try it. But if it doesn't work out to them, they can go to the next place. So it's like the benefit of voting with your feet in some sense is like it has pros and cons on that same side because I can just go to the next hot space if I want to.
Right. Yeah. Try to work your connections and work your way up.
Yep. Yeah. Interesting. Okay. Very cool. Then yeah, let's jump into NFTs now, my man. This is a big topic. We got lots to talk about. But for the Bitcoiners out there that don't know what the hell an NFT is, they want to be, stuck in the sand. And you've been asking this question over and over all year. Mm-hmm. So now, put on the spot, in your definition, what is an NFT?
An NFT is just proof that you own a digital asset. And I think Bitcoiners actually do understand this better than they think, because what Bitcoin did for money, NFTs do for everything else. Because Bitcoin got big under the premise that the way that we use money now in a centralized bank system is not beneficial to the holder. It's beneficial to the system and the institutions that are running it, right? They have to think in a much bigger schemes here. So with Bitcoin, there's only 21 million that will ever be made. You have that scarcity built in already. And so it's a better financial system in the long run for you to be a part of if you get in early. And Bitcoin has done a very good job of establishing the narrative that it is sound money. Now, what NFTs do is they take this exact same concept. What Bitcoin did for money, they're doing it for everything else. So there's going to be scarce assets that are either digital or physical, and they will have a digital marker. And NFTs are a way to say, I own that, just like I own the Bitcoin that I have. It's the exact same concept, but what Bitcoin did for money, NFTs will unlock for lots of other things. And it started really with art. Art is the big way that it did this, like it moved in this way. Because when we look at stores of wealth, like you can hoard gold, lots of it, but buying an expensive painting is another way to store your gold in a different way. So what NFTs have done for art is another way to store your Bitcoin or your Ethereum or whatever cryptocurrency you have, but you're putting it in a asset that could possibly go up with time, depending on the artist, whether you want to buy an X copy or you want to buy one of Jake Fried's pieces. You have these art pieces that do work as a store of value in a different type of way. So what we're seeing now is almost like a new renaissance of artists that are using this technology and moving the space forward in this way of the acceptance of selling art digitally, which kind of goes to my background of like being in that creator economy, seeing how much money is being made for creators. NFTs allow creators to have another avenue to make money. It's just another medium for them to do things. They could, of course, get commissions to do certain projects. They can get paid advertisements, or they can sell their work directly, which is something that really has never been done before, especially with digital artists. Digital artists are in this weird in-between, but where do they fit in the world? Now with NFTs, they are clearly in the digital space, which means they can use their art and sell it also in a digital medium, so that you could, of course, right-click save, I own this, or you could have an NFT that is a marker, is a receipt that says this is actually mine, and I can trade it. And so you've now inserted the scarcity into digital assets, just like Bitcoin introduced scarcity into the financial realms.
Perfect. So NFTs are digital property rights native to the internet is kind of how to think about it.
Yeah, that's the easiest way to think about it.
And that's not getting into go ahead.
Yeah, and it could be anything.
Yeah,
it could be anything.
So the NFT is the binding that is the proof of ownership, but what that points to could be whatever you could digitally point to: a picture, a video, audio, a single sign-on to an app. It could be whatever.
It could be whatever. It could be your digital identification. It could be anything. Yeah. And I do think the term NFT will go away eventually. It would just be, I own this. It's mine. Every 2-year-old, it's a human instinct. They want to know what's theirs and what's not theirs. This is just that for the internet.
Right. Yeah, I agree with you. I think as metaverses, as chains, so as metaverses proliferate, whatever that means, and chains consolidate into few main ones that we use, that's going to feel more and more real. Where, Polygon's crushing it on a few fronts because they're getting huge brands to come online, Disney, Starbucks. So whatever the Polygon wallet infrastructure looks like, that's going to become more and more real because you're going to go to Starbucks and use your rewards points, and it'll be maybe a wallet infrastructure.
The town I grew up in is it's famous for being the testing ground for a lot of things. So we got the nacho cheese Dorito tacos at Taco Bell first before everybody else goes, right? We're a testing ground nationally. One of the things that we were also tested for was debit cards and credit cards when they first came out. As people moved away from cash into just swiping, right? Swiping became the thing. So now, and of course, it took a long time for that to be accepted. Was it cool? Was it not cool? How do I feel about this? Now I just use my phone for everything. I have Apple Pay on there and I just scan it. The exact same thing's going to happen with NFTs. We're not going to think about it's going to be on the blockchain or not. It's just going to be, it is. In fact, I'm going to want it to be later on because I know it's more secure than having a credit card or anything else like that. So we're already there. It's literally just 2 adjacent steps to this being adopted globally, nationally, rather easily. And Starbucks is going to be the one to do it because everyone gets coffee and is obsessed. So it's just an easy one for them to use.
Yeah. So when lightning comes to your town, it's on. It's game time.
Right. It's done. Bingo. Perfect. My only issue with that though is I'm here for it. And this is where when I listen to your podcast, I think about how Bitcoiners think about this. Do I want to spend my Bitcoin? Is going to be the question. If is it a store of value? Am I storing up gold in a treasure chest that I can pass down one day? Or is it a asset I want to use back and forth? Like money. And that's a question I still wrestle with. I spend my other crypto. I don't spend my Bitcoin.
Right. Yeah. I think my gut says as the wallets get better, it's going to be easy to swap from BTC to a stable coin. And within your same app, you're going to have, my hot BTC that I just kind of tinker with. But when I have my spending wallet that's USDC and it's got $1,000 on it. And it's going to be easier to stay in crypto land when enough supporters have it to go from USDC to BTC than to have to find my debit card because I forgot it at home or whatever it is. Carrying a wallet's actually kind of weird. Why isn't my license and most of my stuff on my Apple Pay so I can just leave the house with my phone? I think we're going to go towards that route. The wallet's going to die for the most part. But I think the big what if right now, and I thought about this with the Coinbase card, kind of a cool invention. I can swipe it at any restaurant or whatever. It uses my BTC. The problem is that that's a taxable event. So the tax part is the thing that people don't think enough about. And if I'm buying coffee, I don't want to have to go to my tax accountant and divvy up all the times I went to Starbucks because that's going to get really messy really fast. I think that one has to be solved for it to be really hit critical mass, because I felt this with go back to the creator economy, DoorDash or Uber. Nobody accounts for I got to withhold my own taxes because I'm a contractor. They always get hit at tax time and they're like, what do you mean I got to pay $800? I'm not getting a refund. And it's bro, because you made, 12 grand, but you want withholding. I think we have to educate the masses on that stuff first. And until tools come online and people understand it, it's going to be a big lift.
I also during my travels, you go to You have countries that are not quite as developed, or us Westerners get there, we don't feel like they're developed, and they're going to skip all of that. They're just going to straight skip it, just like they skipped phone lines, right? There are no phone lines in the air because they jumped it and they went straight to Wi-Fi. And you're seeing that already around the globe with like Bitcoin Beach and El Salvador and certain of these other places that are using these transactions. And they're going to really, I think that's the place where innovation is going to happen when it comes to payments back and forth. And you're already seeing it.
Yeah.
It's going to be, going back to the city conversation, if something's entrenched, it's very hard to undo that.
Right.
It's much easy just to start where there's nothing. And that's and you're seeing that right now.
Yep. Yeah. And like right now I'm reading the book by Charity Water founder Scott Harrison. Super interesting. Like his background of like being a nightclub promoter, like one of the top in the city of New York, to then feeling empty, going doing this Mercy Strips thing, and then rethinking how we fundraise for charity through not using fear and guilt in some sense or shame, but like make it fun, make it a party, but also tangibly show like if you spend $20 on Lightning, you're doing this much good directly to someone in, Monrovia or Libya, that kind of thing. Yeah. That's a huge unlock where it's like, fuck all the tax stuff is like, I'll eat that cost if I could see, boom, my $20 goes so much further than if I give, $3 to the guy sitting on the side of the road. Right. Like it just goes way further. I can feel that.
Yeah, 100%.
Interesting. Okay. I want to touch on a couple NFT kind of like, how do I word this? Like they've been evolving as far as the culture. So one was the royalty debate that happened recently. And that one was like, up until it seems like a few months ago, getting the long tail NFTs seemed like the holy grail, where I can create it once, get my mint price, and then, I can, just like how a Christie's painting might sell for, millions of dollars, but then you're not going to get the tail end of that. NFTs were like, wow, I can get 1% forever. And, maybe I just sell 1,000 pieces and now I just go off and chill and I can go be free. Where is that settled? I have not been watching it super closely.
Yeah. Okay. So when I first got into NFTs, that was like one of the main like selling points. So like you could get the royalties forever on this. So in 10 years, when you've blown up, you may have sold it originally for $100, but 10 years down the line, you're going to sell it for $100 million. That payout's going to be huge. And it's in the smart contract. The smart contract is why that happens. And that's what I've seen over and over again. I said that. I've seen other creators much bigger than you and I say that. That's actually false. That's not in the smart contract. The smart contract is just pointing to an asset. That's done by the marketplaces. So the marketplaces set this up saying, and that's been their marketing tactic to get people in the door to you, our new artists. Like, hey, we'll give you this royalty fee. Anybody could technically do that that's just a website and the right coding and knowing where things go. Christie's could do that if they wanted to. That's the argument. So artists love the royalties. I believe in the royalties. Therefore, I need to use the systems that honor that system. Because if you and I trade NFTs back and forth, that's a trade. Maybe some money went back and forth, but that artist isn't getting royalties on it. There's no actual way to do that. So that's the scary part. I believe in royalties and I like them. So I'm going to have to do the hard work of only buying and doing things on marketplaces that support the royalties.
Got it. So it ends up being like the kind of age old, like vote with your dollars kind of thing, where it's like, if you don't support what Coke's doing, then don't buy Coke kind of thing. Like you just got to go to the places that support that philosophically.
Right. Yeah. It becomes an internal moral question you want to do versus this is the way NFTs work, which it was built for a long time during the bull run. That this is the way it happened. That unfortunately, smart contracts don't work like that. So, which is big bummer when I found out, because I told everybody, I told my mom, told my grandma, they're like, this is awesome. Look, this is what happened. No, I got fooled, and that's not actually how it works.
Did I hear something about you could whitelist marketplaces in the smart contract? So you could like set a whitelist and a blacklist so they can only be listed on that website, and that would potentially keep it more fair. But it sounded like the downside to that was the marketplace could change, but then two, is that really your asset? Like now you have shackles on things that crypto's supposed to be like, this is yours, do as you wish with it. Is that
exactly?
Is that right?
That's right. You could say only do here, but now you're limiting yourself to maybe something better will come up in the future. You've just said, I'm not going to be a part of that. You could have gotten 10% and you settled for 5%. So who knows how it works. I do have to say this: it's not a business strategy to depend on royalties. And that's where a lot of NFT projects were like, because right now we haven't figured out recurring revenue yet. Whereas in Web 2 creator economy, right, it's subscriptions. Low subscriptions is the easiest way to make recurring money. That's how Netflix makes money. This is how Amazon makes money. It's these recurring things that we don't really see every so often. And that's the best business model. NFTs have not figured that out yet. Or a lot of NFT projects have not figured that out yet. And so they were using the royalties as that. So in order to do that, they did some shady stuff, like you go silent for a little bit, and then you do a big announcement, so the prices go up, so you get some of that money, and then they were just doing all this weird stuff, which just again feels scammy and shady, which is of course the number one thing why people say they're not involved, because it feels like a scam. It feels shady. So it's not the best business strategy if you're going to use royalties as recurring revenue.
Okay. There's one more little nuance I want to touch on as far as like narratives, and that is people talk about digital scarcity. And so like, because backed by the blockchain, that's why they're valuable, is because they're scarce. And from my view, I can't tell if that's true or not. I don't follow art at all, really. But it seems like in the physical space and the digital space, both are driven overwhelmingly by narratives over all else. Is that true, you think? And if that is true, do you think that's always true for art?
Okay. My parents are cleaning out their house in my old room. I found a Chewbacca mug from the 80s. It's one of 80 made, handcrafted. It currently sells on eBay for like $80. It has value because there's only 80 of them. It has more value to me because I freaking love Star Wars. So there's that narrative behind it that drives more than anything else. And that's where for these NFT projects, can you create enough buzz, enough hype, enough narrative focus around these things that will drive the value up? I think Gary Vee is a great example, right? He put out his original characters, and then they weren't going to stay hand drawn that he did it. He just wanted him to be the first one to do that. So on, level 8 or whatever, those original ones are still going to be worth more than say level 8 and level 9, till it becomes commonplace and you see it on a backpack and you pick up a Asian panda for your 3rd grade birthday party. Like it's going to be different on how it works and how we use that narrative. And that's all in how you tell your story, how you market. And the NFTs really allow for those first to prove. It's the provenance factor that a lot of people are talking about. I can prove when it was made and how many there are and when I bought it and how important that is. I do think a lot of NFTs, even right now, are going to be worth nothing in the future, right? Just like in the .com boom, Amazon and Google made it out, and that was about it. So we've probably already seen those happen. And so now we're now waiting for this next round of projects that are going to come out in the next 2 to 5 years that really understand this concept more when it comes to storytelling and narrative and how you want to use this and how you want to draw attention and get people to buy. Like, just like you would get someone to buy a physical toy or a baseball card or a 1980s VHS copy of Dune. Like that, it's going to be, how do you get people to buy those things? That's going to be the same thing of how we get people to buy our NFTs.
Right. Okay. So the tried and true stuff is still stuff it's kind of universal. Like, you just, Web3 is just more tools at your disposal.
It's just another tool in your tool belt.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Then I'm curious who from your view is using these tools the best? Like, what's some of the most interesting creators? And maybe we could dovetail into business models, because that's that one that I'm interested in too.
Yeah, I'm also interested in that one. I'm trying to rack my head around it. I think obviously there are like two camps in my mind. There's the artist camp, who are the fine artists doing this, like they like the X copies, who are making things like this, and you're gonna see a lot more digital artists go that way, like Ruben Wu, high craft photographers that are really experimenting with stuff, and they can finally sell their things to a broader audience, right? Somebody in Indonesia now can make an NFT, build this out, and sell it to somebody in the US or Europe, right? That as a new way they never had before of making money. And then you're going to see on the other half is you're going to have your community based, right? That's your Megapont, that's your Bored Ape. Proof is even like that, where you have your community based. What do you like rally around? And that's the exact same thing as a fraternity or sorority in my mind, as being a part of a fraternity in college. Like, when I went to the Megapont party, I was like, this is exactly how it feels. It's the same feeling. I have people that have a shared and common language, who are passionate about a thing, coming together and celebrating. And I think that's also key. And you're going to find that's a human connection that we all want to have. That I think is doing really, really cool things. It's awesome. But now they have a bunch of money that can make bigger and better projects to keep doing this. I do think the storytelling aspect, the narrative, will be the strongest thing to pull some of these projects through.
Interesting. So one thing you didn't say in there is utility. Do you think that's the third piece, or where does that fit into the overlay of fine art and community?
I think So that was utility was a big buzzword. Community was the big buzzword. Utility was a big buzzword. What does your NFT do? Sometimes it can unlock certain things, right? That would be the club membership aspect. I think stuff that like Seigel is doing, it could be very interesting once built out a little bit more. Once you get free access, like if Adobe had an NFT when they first launched, that you got everything for free later on forever, that'd be a game changer, and that would go for a lot of money. Is that something businesses can do? I think so. I think it's a great way to raise capital up front, but that offers a whole different sideshow of problems that you now have to deal with, that when you're just a startup team, you probably don't have time for, and you should devote more to building your product first and try to build a community.
Yeah. I think that utility part is the one that I feel like we're like, if crypto's in the first ending, the utility aspect of NFTs is like, they're still in the back warming up, because it's like there's the idea of programming around a token, whether it's art or something else, like a Jay-Z album. Like, there's so much you could do with that, and like in web MapQuest days, where it's like, I'm still printing shit out, I'm still sending a transaction, hoping, like, wait for block times, all this stuff. Like, that's just
right.
That's printing out, looking for the sign addresses. It's way too cumbersome. The programmability of like holding something and you can float across. They probably see Proof do it the best, is what my guess will be like. They'll do it first and the best, and they'll lead the way on like you hold a moonbird and you're going to float across all kinds of things from special discounts to private parties to whatever it is. But that's like there's still so much infrastructure to build for that to be even remotely practical.
Right. Like you could it'd be so many different things. So like if your favorite musician had an NFT collection that they drop and they select randomly, random numbers, whichever ones are, will you get backstage passes when we're in your city? That's something that could be cool and easy, but I don't think of that as necessarily utility, but more as community building. Like, how am I giving back to my community? I think Gary Vee and Proof did it really. Proof is going to do it right when they have their Proof of conference, right? Where if you are a Proof Collective member, you get to go to the conference for free, and that's about community building. Yes, you're going to hear some cool speakers, but do we really want to hang out with speakers, or we really just want to go to a bar and just hang out with everybody and eat pizza and connect and network? And I think that's that kind of feels like a fraternity again. How do I know the secret handshake to get in the door? And that's the extra utility I'm getting is my network that has grown through that. And I think that's really key. I'm interested in seeing storytelling NFTs take place. Like, what does it look like to go from, say, a Marvel of NFTs? What does it look like to build that all the way up? Starting with buying maybe a PFP to having characters in a show to doing something else. I think that really interests me, and we're gonna see a bunch come up in the next 5 years of people who are going to try. And
just so I'm clear, you mean like using common characters that are already kind of in the crypto culture, or something else as far as storytelling?
Something completely new. Like people are going to be able to tell stories that never had access to the technology or the infrastructure or the network to even do so, but they're good at telling stories. So the next Batman is going to come out like this. The next Matrix is going to be done this way until it hits, a feature-length movie in the theater. The OGs are going to be able to go to that first screening when it first gets released, and that's going to be such a cool moment because they've been following this whole way and holding and seeing how that grows. And so how they use that, I think will be really interesting. I think there's a big use case for how we view movies. And I know there are a couple of projects thinking about this, making movies, releasing passes as NFTs. So you have to go to the website like you would go to a Netflix. You go to the website, you connect your wallet, it sees that you have it, you can watch the movie, and when you're done, you can sell it. So there's an interesting way of how that moves and how demand generates, how the price moves and shakes. Will that work? I have no idea. It may be a very interesting way to do viral marketing. Put a billboard up in LA saying there's only 100 of these to watch this movie. Go buy it here, be the first one. I think that could be very interesting. Again, you need a bigger studio or something behind it to really put the marketing dollars to make it happen. But I think a lot of use cases are going to come up like this that are really going to change how we think about a lot of this stuff.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. You're basically saying it's going to continue to democratize and remove the gatekeepers so that stories that would otherwise not be told, they'll be able to find their critical mass and they're going to resonate so deeply with that. And it's going to be crypto first. I'm also, as you were talking, it made me think about it's crazy how just in the past 2 months, it feels like AI is here now.
Yeah.
In a huge way, when it's been hyped up for so long. Elon's talking about it's going to take over the world, doomsday, whatever. But now it's AI can be a beautiful tool to expand art. And as you were talking about storytelling in these new ways, I could totally see how you could take a PFP, render it, and then place it in like retargeted ads around the web. So if it's like,
Yep.
hey, that's my Megapont on that thing, or
Uh-huh.
I'm watching a movie and that's my thing in the movie. If I'm watching it on like my phone, like it knows I'm watching it locally.
Yeah.
You can tailor them, and the tech is pretty much here. That if you're in VR or you're on your phone, you get to be like the side character that dies. Sorry, bro, you can't be the main character, but it will be your Lizard
Right.
Man or Doodle or Goblin Town or whatever. Like that would be crazy.
Right, like in the background of the bar scene shot, there's an arcade thing, right? And if it's gonna read your wallet and find the biggest club you're in and put, oh yeah, that's a Mutant Ape arcade game. That's a Megapont arcade game in the back. Just little stuff for you that maybe you don't know. There's kind of a tailor to the experience.
Yep.
On the caveat of democratizing, one of the things I don't see happening is, I think the hardest one is going to break into is going to be the music industry because of how we consume music. I think music will always need to be free through streaming. I think that's just the way it's been seen. I think, but TikTok's done a very good job of allowing more people to have a viral moment. And I think there's a lot of Web3 cases to help indie artists not use the big machines in order to get their music out there. I think that's where the big stuff is in the distribution, not necessarily the selling of music. I'm not going to see, Kendrick Lamar's 10 songs that I own and nobody else does. That kind of takes away the beauty of the art. But I could see buying Kendrick Lamar NFT and be able to go backstage or be able to get first access to the album when it comes out, or do other perks like that, which you were talking about, utility. So that's where I think about, because everyone's talking about music NFTs, and I think, and a lot of very, very smart people with a lot of money are working very hard to bridge that gap. And so I'm interested to see what they come up with.
Yep, I couldn't agree more. Okay, I want to start to bring this to a close. I want to riff on the fantastic show that you guys do for a little bit. So for those that don't know, what is the Airdrop Show that you guys produce and put out?
Yeah, Airdrop Show is a show where we're talking to NFT artists about what they do. So if you're interested in the next JPEG GIF collection and how getting the right people early, that's what we're doing. It's how to not become somebody else's exit liquidity. I think that's the show, because I can't tell you how many times you'll be like, oh, that's cool, but I'm not going to do anything. Wait a minute, this is really cool and I missed out on it. There's a lot of noise and a lot of things to sort through, especially looking for artists and helping the creator economy and how they're moving forward. And we want to kind of be that leading edge for you and what we're doing. I got a lot of big plans, obviously, but this everything changes and flows. I have a million ideas, and how do we execute on it best is always the hard part, because I could, of course, go put something out, but I want to be able to back it up in the long term. How do you have the right business model to make this happen? We started Airdrop as under the premise that it's better to document your process than to come out with something fully fledged right away. So we didn't know what NFTs were when we started. We asked every guest as they came on in the first season, what is an NFT? And that's why we've learned so much. I learned best by talking to people. Just let me talk to the people right up front about what this is, instead of doing my 100 hours of research. And we just talk to 100 people. And that's where that's kind of how it started, and what we're doing and what we're growing. And I'm more focused on now is how NFTs are moving and shaking, and what are the big artists doing and thinking about how they use their stuff, and trying to highlight the artists, highlight the creators. That's where my heart is in. My heart is for the creator. So I want to see them succeed, and how do we use this for the creator economy. There's a lot of other shows that talk about NFTs and current events and how things are moving and shaking. We're not a trading show because I have yet to successfully trade. So I can't tell you anything about how to do that, but I can maybe give you some insight of these are the people that might blow up because their art is good. One, because their art is good. Two, because they're diligent enough to put in the time. And three, they're not in it for the money. They're in it just to create. And that means when the money goes away, like we've seen it now with a bear market, and when the money comes back in the bull market, they'll still be there. And because it's not about the money, it's about the aspect of creating. And that's what really gets my juices flowing. And there's a lot of interesting, cool artists that are out there doing really, really cool things.
Yeah, the thing I love about your show is that when you are a creator and you're talking, like most top tier creators are too busy to really like give you the alpha of how they're doing it, like how the sausage is made. And so when you listen to a half-hour interview, a question will come up that the response is like, it's almost the way he answers sometimes that will like trigger you, or just like one little line, it's just like a nugget and you'll use that and just like run with it. So from like the creator to creator side, that is like, it's the most like raw source truth alpha you can find as far as like how to use NFTs at the bleeding edge.
Right, because we're all thinking, this is what I was thinking. You hear about NFTs, you start researching it, you buy your first NFT, which is a gateway drug in and of itself. Just like when you buy your first crypto, it's like, wait a minute. And then you start thinking, well, how do I do this? What do I bring to the world? How can I use this? I want to be creative, right? We had like Tyler Faust on, who literally started creating because he was trying to keep his mind occupied during lectures in med school. And now his art career makes the same as his real job. So it's like, this is a weird thing. Everybody, I believe, is creative. And I think there's a democratization, a new renaissance of creativity that's coming that I believe everybody should be a part of. So I want to talk to the best and the brightest. So maybe we can start thinking to ourselves, how do I do this? What does this look like for me? And then we should get in touch and talk about it, because I'm here to listen to ideas, flesh them out, maybe poke some holes, and maybe it's just time to start creating and see what happens. Yep.
What's a couple of the biggest things you've learned since starting the show?
I think there's listening to a lot of people. It's the same thing over and over again, right? It's to create every day, even if it sucks. You just have to keep going, put your 10,000 hours in. And also on that is that everything kind of meets in the middle with Web3. Web3 is this kind of nexus where art, community, fashion, technology, all kind of mix in this weird space in the middle. And right now, there's not a lot of us out there, compared to how many people there are, say, on the internet. And so everyone is here to help each other grow. And I think that's really, really cool. There's not a competition yet. It's all camaraderie on how do I help you, because I want to help you, not because I want anything out of it. And on the flip side of that, there's a lot of hype, like almost too much, to where you think you might miss out on something, or somebody makes it big and then they want to tell you this is the way you have to do it. And that's kind of that toxic culture that kind of seeps through when you're on top. And that, to be honest, I think it happens to everybody when they're on top. When you've made it, you think you know what happened, and you don't want to say that more luck was involved than it actually is. I think it's something Bitcoiners can really think about, because when you bought early because you knew early, not because you were smarter. You just happen to, we're here. So I think there's a lot of room to grow in the space. I think it's so early. I think crypto's in the first inning. I think NFTs just showed up to the stadium. I think that's where we're at. And some people just got off the bus in some flashy suits, and everyone's taking paparazzi pictures because it's awesome, but we haven't seen them play out yet. Right. We don't know what they're going to do. So they could fumble on the 1 yard line and lose the game, to mix up our sports analogies. But that's we don't know what's going to happen yet. I think it's really interesting. And in 10 years, I think everyone's going to own an NFT. And I think it's going to happen through gaming. It's going to happen through storytelling. It's going to happen through music. It's going to be through entertainment that it's going to happen.
I couldn't agree more. I think that's one of the things that really drives me the craziest about these like proof of work, proof of stake debates, or NFTs are dumb, or whatever it is. It's like we haven't been here long enough in crypto at all to even remotely have any like strong conviction. Like Bitcoin could go to zero, like for real still. Like some crazy stuff could happen. A new ASIC gets invented. Who knows? Satoshi moves his wallet, whatever. Something could happen.
Right.
And it would just nosedive because we just don't know. And they're just so confident and they are correct. That's especially as a new crypto person, I just don't understand.
I'm all for passion. I'm all for confidence. I'm also for the saying, I am wrong. If you can say that, I am wrong. You're probably more emotionally intelligent than 98% of other humans out there. Right. But no, please be passionate, and please, on the other hand, be able to say I was wrong really easily. And just like I can say I was wrong when I thought about NFTs, about royalties. I thought that was just in the smart contract. I was totally wrong, and I told a bunch of people. And I've had to edit it out of the show's post now because I was like, that wasn't quite right.
Yep.
So that's just how the cookie crumbles.
Right. Okay. I got one more question before we close this out. But before we get to it, where can people find you? What's the links? Airdrop, Phosphorus, all that good stuff.
Yeah. Easiest way is on Twitter, at Airdrop Show, or at Phosphorus BTC. I'm sure the links will be in this description. And you can find us anywhere you listen to podcasts. Just search Airdrop NFT Show. We're right there. Spotify, Apple, YouTube, everywhere you listen to podcasts. I think I have one coming out real soon. I'm gonna finish it after we wrap this interview.
Hell yeah. Perfect. Yeah. And this dude puts out the whole show, like everything they do. They put out website clips, production value. It's just top tier. So highly recommend Airdrop Show. But last question, I like to end on a high note. I like to force people to kind of think outside the box, put the rosy colored glasses on. So in a perfect world, what is Phosphorus or Airdrop Show? You can take either one. What does it look like in 5 years if you guys just like crushing execution, everything goes perfectly? What's 5 years from now look like?
5 years. It's 2022, so 2027. We're probably in the middle of another bear market at that point. So we've probably crushed it like in 3 years and become like a big source. And we've become a lot of people's first, NFT they found through us as we help onboard a bunch of people. And then it kind of tanks a little bit and we're all trying to freak out whether we all made the right decision. And then it happens again. And then we start coming back to our senses and coming back to our morals and our core values. And we can just kind of say, no, I'm in here for the right reason, for the creatives. And we get a whole new class of new green people that are ready to be onboarded, and we give them the best products possible and the best artists and help a whole new class of people enter the crypto space, which I think is everybody's goal. Is more and more adoption, more people understanding it and realizing how it can benefit their lives. And I mean, hopefully throw some rad events. 5 years, we better be able to throw some rad events. Some in-person stuff.
That is a practical, very real answer. Because like I'm thinking of like in Portland, we have tons of food trucks. They're all over the place. And like in the summertime, they are popping, so busy. And then in the wintertime, no one's going outside in Portland because it's cold, it's raining. And you see a lot of them will like disappear by next summer because they didn't account for the slowdown. You're baking it in already where you're like, we're going to crush it in 2025. 2027, we're going to live off 2025. And then in 2030, we're going to be the biggest thing since sliced bread. And we're going to throw like VCon style events, but for the future plebs.
I have to like think about it. I'd be like, all right, there are ups and there are downs, and they all happen to us. Where is this going to be? I mean, I'm too obsessed with the Web3 space now to stop. So I'm going to be here talking to artists, being like, how the hell are you doing this? Where did this idea come from? And how can we get more? That's the conversation that's always going to be happening forever.
I love it. Cool, man. I think that's a great way to end it. And
thanks, Jake. I appreciate you bringing it on. I appreciate you having me on the show.
No, man, I appreciate you coming on. Any closing thoughts before we officially hit the end button?
Yeah, if you're a Bitcoiner listening to this, NFTs are not the enemy. They're here to help you. And I think, and you can do it through stacks. So it's secured on Bitcoin. So we keep our faith true.
Perfect. I'm gonna clip that. I'm gonna put it as a new intro, and every episode's gonna start with that. Bitcoiners, they're not your enemy. It's perfect. Man, Caleb,
and you can get one of Jake Blockchain's NFTs over at Gamma.io.
That's right. If you want to come on the show, you will be immortalized as a Built on Bitcoin NFT. You're part of the future. So now you're on that list, Caleb. So appreciate you coming on the show. Thank you so much, my man.
Peace out, dude.
Welcome to Built on Bitcoin.
I know that things don't always go your way, but I'll be right here waiting. I've been waiting now. I've been trying to figure out a way to make it out. Cause I don't think about everything going wrong.